Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to route out Yosemite Sam, cartoon character, and the idea it was going to route out all the inner section on this one, put some nice painting. Before that we will cut it out on a scroll saw. You could actually leave it on this fencing wood if you wanted to, and route out the background just so he stands up slightly. We're going to do what they call scrouter project. So that's scroll saw and a router combined together to make a nice little piece for the garden. Now your red measures in at 15 inches by 9 inches roughly. We've got our template ready, you can see from that, and it's just on rough fencing wood. I use this a lot on all my projects in the garden. When you buy it, it comes like that, and it is quite rough and ready, but it's fairly cheap to purchase here in the UK at least. And you spend 5-10 minutes or so just sanding it all down with a belt sander, and it comes out really smooth. And it's ideal for anybody that's just starting out and you don't want to waste too much money getting all your fancy woods and stuff. So we searched our template. It's all stuck down there nicely. I use carbon paper underneath mine, and it's just a case of popping your carbon paper underneath. Make sure you have it the right way around. Pop it on, and then we just get a nice pen or pencil, and if you just draw around it, it takes 5 minutes. There is other ways of transferring. I did try once to route over the paper, and some people can do it. It's just not for me. This for me is also part of the enjoyment of drawing this round like so. So we've got it on there, we've took it off. That way you can also use that over and over again, so you're not wasting paper and inks just printing it off time and time again. Personally myself, I very rarely do two of one item. So there he is, it's on there nicely, stands out nice and clear. Take 2 or 3 minutes to shade in the areas that we want to remove. It's worth doing that because you will go away, come back, and you probably start routing that section out. Well, we want that bit leaving there. So the shaded areas, you'll go away, start routing out inside the lines there. Big mistake. Okay, so take your time, quick shading in, and we're good to go. The bits for me, as always, and this is just my personal preference, you can get profile bits, liner bits to do your lines with, spiral up cut bits to do all the clear out with. There's all fancy bits out there, and they also come with a fancy price. That's entirely up to you what you want to use. What I use today, they might not be for everybody, but I've certainly got no issues with them. And for me, it's just these simple, cheap eBay specials, CNC bits. They come in different degrees, 20s, 10s, 15s. That's basically just the angle of the end bit there. I don't know if you're going to see that. Just that section at the end, the cut. I normally use 20, and we're going to use a 20 degree today. They come with a small shaft on, a Dremel size shaft, 3.175mm. And they will fit a Dremel no problem if you're going to use a Dremel attachment. However, for my 1/4 inch router, you need what they call a adapter reducer collet, 6.35. It's basically just a tube to make your shaft on that 1/4 inch, and you literally just slot it in like so into the silver end, and the dark section goes into your router. That's now got a 1/4 inch shaft on, and we're good to go. Now depth wise, I always use 3mm on most of my projects, be it with paint or resin. I made a little gauge here, just simply 3 meters. It's the same thickness or depth as the CNC bit. We will pop that in, put the router over the top, and we'll set it to that depth. That way, if you go away and use the router on something else, when you come back, you can set it to the same depth. You can purchase depth gauges off eBay, Amazon, cheap, no problem, but 2 minutes and you've got one made already. So we do all our lines with the CNC bit. Always inside the line, remember, if it's inset. Outside the line if we're doing outset. I never route out on the line if I can help it. I'll just show you a smaller section. If you imagine coming around here on the line, down there and back there on the line, we've altered that distance here. in between, be it small, should I say. So when we come in, we come up to the line and up to the line that way. You'll see as you go along. So basically, once you've done all your routing out on the lines, you should more or less just be able to still see the pencil line. We'll do all those lines as we can see them there. Once we've done that, we'll go on to end milling bits. Like I say, there is other bits out there. These just work fantastic for me. They have the same size shaft on, so we can use the same adapter collet. Just pop that out, slide that in to that little barrier. They do come without the barrier, so don't be concerned if you can't find them with the barrier on. They're eBay and Amazon as well. Just end milling bits. And obviously we'll set it to the same depth, 3mm, and then we'll go in and start clearing all the shaded areas out. Once we've lowered all the shaded areas by 3mm, remember, we'll cut it all out on a nice scroll saw with a pegas spiral blade, and then we'll give it all a nice general tidying up. Just want to round these edges slightly, and then we're on to the painting side of things, but we'll talk about that nearer the time. For now though, we'll just pop our CNC bit back into the adapter collet, pop that into our router, and we'll start routing this one out. Right, you can see from that we've gone all the way around with those CNC bits, and remember, just about to see that we've cut into there and we've still got the little bit of pencil line showing. So remember, route up to the line. So that's it for the CNC bit. Doesn't take too long to do that. Once you get to the swing of things, you'll soon have this coming out, no problem whatsoever. Now it's just a simple case of removing that CNC bit. You will get a lot more projects out of that. For what you pay for them, you certainly get your money's worth. Now I'm going to pop in one of these end milling bits, and it's just a simple case of sliding it into that little barrier. Some nice new bits today, so we shouldn't have too much trouble. And personally myself, this will whip out this piece of wood, no problem. Even that big section there. I do have bigger pieces, but once you get going with this, you just get in the zone and you'll have this cleared out in no time whatsoever. So we'll pop that into the router. We'll set it to a nice depth there. Obviously we've picked one that we can get into all these areas like so, and we simply just start removing all these shaded areas. Let's do that next. Right, we've made it all the way round with the end milling bits. The good thing about those, they will route out the side bits as well as the bottom of it. So it's smooth enough, but we'll go over it with a sandpaper and a little engraving bit just to tidy everything up. We want to get right down into these tighter areas. I'll do that with an engraving bit. We could have put on a smaller end milling bit and gone into all those and sorted them out. We'll get a nice narrow on a flexi cable. Basically something like this here. And then we'll be able to get right down inside those gaps. But we'll come back to that afterwards. Just before that, I just want to cut it all out on a scroll saw. Now you could leave this on this base, on this backer should I say, and go ahead and route out all the background by the same depth. And that is another option. But for me, I like to incorporate a scroll saw with a router. So I'm going to cut it all out. Now just very quickly, there's 3 basic types of blade. You got a pin blade like so. There's also pins at both edges, both ends should I say. One there and one there, and that hooks onto your more basic cheap saws. You want the teeth smooth on the way down and rough on the way up, and have the blade teeth facing towards you. You could use this on this one, no problem, because nothing too complicated. If you're doing a lot of inner cuts that are really small and delicate, if you imagine you have to cut out the middle of that little section there, you'll drill a pilot hole and you'll feed in these pinless blades. Obviously they've got no pins on, and there's basically a clamp at the top and the bottom. They're ideal for small inner cuts. Obviously with the pin blade, you want to get in those little gaps because the pins are in the way. It's a personal choice. For me personally, I like to use spiral blades. Now the teeth are spiraled the full length, and they will cut in any direction. So we can basically start there and then just feed the wood gently across like that and all the way. Whereas with your normal pinned and pinless blades, you would have to start here, let's say, and you would feed that and then turn your wood to feed it into there, and a nice turn again to feed that way, and then turn again and turn. Just too much for me, so I'll just stick with spiral blades should I say. Unfortunately with my little drapper saw, I have to use adapter clamps because it's only a pinned saw only. So they just hook on, similar to how a pin blade would hook on. More fancier saws is basically pinless. So we'll pop that pegas number 5 on the scroll saw, and we'll cut this out quickly before we do our general tidy up, and then we'll be on to the painting side of things. Right, we've made it all the way round with the Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Now I'm not the best scroller in the world, but it does the job for what I want. There are certain bits up here, look, maybe not as perfect. That's what sander's for. We'll sand them all off, round it all off nicely. Remember, we're going to round off these edges a little bit and remove all the pencil lines and stuff. So that's definitely near enough for me, and I've got no issues with the cut of the spiral blade. You can see from there, look, the only thing you will find is little noddly bits on the end there, and that's literally a couple of minutes of sandpaper, and that's all nicely done. So general tidying up now. Now I like to use these Just cheap eBay engraving bits. They come all with all different fancy heads on, and I'll find one that's got a nice point on, like that one there. We'll pop it onto flexi cable, should I say, and that'll allow us to go in there and get into right into those little sections and angle the engraving bits just so we can come right that and make it into a nice point around there and inside there. So we get a good clean out with those. There's also one I like to use with a flat bottom on, like so. Just see that one there. There we go. That's got a nice flat bottom on, and that's ideal for going in, giving it a general tidy up like so. And then we throw a bit of sandpaper onto it, and then we'll go with a mouse sander and clean it all off as well. So when we come back next time, this will look totally different again. Right, let's give it a general tidy up, and then we'll be on to the painting side of things. Right, that's enough general tidying up for me. We've got rid of all our lines nicely, and we've rounded those edges off slightly, and most of these sections here, what I call the framework of the character. And we've also done the back. I took all our little knobblies off, and that's all nice and smooth. So don't be overly concerned if you're not cutting it out too perfect. You're just going to spend a little bit more time sanding it down and stuff. Now for painting wise, just cheap acrylic paints for me. I do like to water them down slightly just to make more of a stain in the actual paint. So we'll add a bit of water to these. Unfortunately, we will have to go over it maybe 2 or 3 times just for it to hold. So we'll go off and paint this, and then we'll spray on some nice clear varnish, as always for me, just to give it a bit of a shine. And hopefully when we come back, this little project will be finished. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now we gave him 3 or 4 coats of polyurethane varnish. It won't be the best in the world, and it's entirely up to you guys what you want to put on. But just get a nice little shine. You can see from that, it's got a nice finish to him. Use painter's touch paint for the back and the sides, and the rest was painted with cheap acrylic paints, nothing fantastic. I use these ones here, Crawford and black, and we like to water them down to make more of a stain than actual paint, and it certainly does the job. So that's him done. Couple of issues. If I wanted to be critical, I wish I had routed out the nose. I wish I should have left the nose as a solid piece, and maybe the black lines were a little bit too thick for me, too wide, if that makes sense. But you don't want to make everyone exactly the same. But it's a project. You can still see him from there. Look, it's worked out. But yeah, I'm not too happy with the nose on this one. But it is what it is. We've enjoyed ourselves along the way. So, and that's it. Yosemite Sam is finished. Now it measures in at 15 inches by 9 inches across. We use cheap rough fencing wood. We glued 2 pieces together with just wood glue, nothing fantastic there. Clamped it overnight, and then we use CNC bits to do all our lines. All the clear out we use end milling bits, and then we painted it with just cheap acrylic paints and finished with the polyurethane finish. And that's it. This little project is complete. Well, we'll go and find a place for him in the garden with the rest of them. Thank you very much for watching.